Hello, 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 my loves. Welcome back to the You Deserve Better podcast. Today's episode is one that came straight from a moment that I had last week. And it was such a teeny, tiny, very innocent moment. It was the tiniest of interactions that was like less than 5 minutes, I swear. But it sent me spiraling. And then afterwards, after the spiraling and actually doing the work, getting the feedback, it gave me the biggest lesson ever. And that is the power of communication, the importance of communication, and how if we actually all communicated, the world would be such a better place. It'd be so much more peaceful. It'd be so much more simpler. Is that a word? Simpler? I think it'd be more simple. But it'd just be, the world would be a better place, right? And sometimes I feel like the universe it'll hand you a situation that feels really surface level, really small on the surface, but it hits something within you that reminds you, it's a lesson. No matter how small it is, everything is a lesson. And it reminds you of where you are at on your growth. And are you still going to be the old Rebecca? Are you still going to play that victim? Are you still going to be the person that acts small and dims the light and keeps the peace and doesn't speak up? Are you really going to be that person? Because the way that I speak sometimes, it's like, actually, you need to act from that place. You can't just speak this way. You can't work with these clients, and you have to embody that. I have to embody this. I show up. I give all this advice. In fact, I bet 9 times out of 10, so many people will relate to me in this, that how often do you find that you're really good at giving advice, but you can't always take your own? You know? And this is how I often feel in my position, in my line of work, and with everything that I am doing. It's like I'm so good at helping other people and giving them all of the answers. And I know the answers for myself, but do I take them? You know, and it's like sometimes I get that little wake-up call of like, actually, don't just speak or think these things, but act from a place of that. And this situation definitely did. And I'm making it out that it's a huge drama, a huge situation. It was actually not. It was so super tiny, but it was just a huge lesson for me, because it put a lot into perspective about my past as well. So yeah, today I want to talk about that moment. I want to talk about what it brought up in me and why it reminded me of the importance of honest communication, even in the smallest of things, and that actually being open and honest and communicative could genuinely change your relationships with everyone, regardless of who they are and the part that they play in your life. It could genuinely change your relationships. But not only that, but your confidence, how you show up in the world, the person that you are, what you tolerate, how you stand up for yourself. And most importantly, your peace and your mind, how you feel on the daily, your spiritual health, all of that good stuff. So here's the story. Here's what happened. I'm just going to set the scene. So I was actually at a personal training session. I'm learning, I think I've told you guys this before. I think I have. Apologies if I've not. I'm learning to do muscle ups, and I've been working on them all freaking year. Well, actually probably for about 7 months this year. Really, really solidly for probably about 5, 6. And my progress has just hit this stagnancy. So I've been having these one-to-one sessions to get specifically to work on this muscle up. For those who don't know, a muscle up, it's like a pull-up, but then where you go over the bar into a tricep dip. So it's actually one of the hardest moves that one could try and do. So why I set these goals for myself, I do not know, but I set this goal for myself and I have to achieve it. Yeah, so I was at this session. Someone else was there. I hadn't realised that I knew them. We were about maybe half an hour, 45 minutes into the session, and this other woman was in there training these two people, and I'd seen them going up and down, but you know, you're in your own little bubble, so I wasn't really taking it on. And then I just heard this woman go, "Oh, Becky." And I was like, "How are you? You okay?" She said, "Oh, honestly, I didn't recognise you then when you were smiling. I'm not used to seeing you like that. I'm not used to seeing you smile. I only recognised you then when you closed your mouth." And in the moment, I was listening to it and I'm thinking, huh? I laughed it off, yeah? Because that's what we do. I think I said something along the lines, "Oh, I'm in the gym, I'm training, it's my happy place." So I brushed it off and very much, probably pretended I was unbothered. I suppose in the moment, it's hard to know, like, what to say, or at least for me, I'm often a reflector. I am very guilty of reflecting on things and then wishing I'd have said something or at least asked, "What do you mean?" or whatever. But then, like, later on, when I was alone reflecting on this, oh my gosh, my brain was just running wild. That comment, the tiniest of interaction, it hit something in me real deep that I didn't actually realise was even that sensitive. Like, I'm sure some of you are listening now and thinking, really? You're bothered by that tiny interaction? And there's a part of me that thinks, why did it bother me so much as well? Like, I completely understand for those of you that are thinking that way. But I just started going into this full overthinking mode of like, what does she mean? Do I not smile? Do I have a resting bitch face? Do I have negative energy? Was she making a sly comment? Was it a bit of a dig? How am I showing up day to day? And I am really conscious of that because I like to pride myself on being a very positive and light energy. And I like to show up in that way. Well, I am that way, but I want to show up in that way for other people. I want them to feel that energy from me. So that was like the complete opposite of how I want to be seen, if that makes sense. So it was a whole spiral of all these questions going through my mind of how people perceive me, if what I'm thinking is actually even right, that familiar mental loop that often is just one tiny sentence or word or phrase, but it becomes a whole story in your head, doesn't it? Like, I had created this entire story in my mind that's based upon my perspective, and that's the importance here. It's my perspective, my perception. That's what I really want to elaborate on this point, that isn't it crazy how fast that we jump from one sentence to an entire story, how our mind fills in the blanks when we do not have any facts, any clarity, anything. We make these assumptions that quickly become our truth in that moment, and none of it is true. We create a version of reality that in our minds it feels so real, it feels very factual, but we never actually checked if any of it's true. We just assume. And the age-old saying of when we assume it makes an ass of you and me, it's so true, isn't it? But that is where it comes back to. I've spoken about this again in the closure episode. Our mind, it hates gaps. Yeah? Our mind hates gaps. It hates not knowing. So it fills in the blanks. And naturally, it fills in the blanks with the worst case scenario because that feels safer. Yeah? When we speak about the amygdala, which is there's the part of the brain that tries to keep us safe in all moments of time. It's 24/7. It's trying to keep you safe. So with that, it naturally looks to the negatives, any possible risks, anything that could harm you. And I'm repeating myself from previous episodes, but back in the past, in the cavemen days, this did save our lives because it made sure that we stayed in the pack. It stopped us from being eaten alive. It stopped us from starving to death. It made sure that we was accepted and safe from all risks and hazards. And if not, we would die. Nowadays, it's a tiny comment about, "Oh, I'm not used to seeing you smile." That the brain goes to the worst case scenario, that I have a resting bitch face, I show up in a negative way, people think I'm moody, whatever, The brain hates gaps, and it would prefer to choose a worst case scenario that feels safe rather than the uncertainty of not knowing. Even if that scenario hurts us, it will still jump to that conclusion. It's just the way our mind works, which actually, when you think about it, is really fucking powerful how it works, isn't it? And actually, and this is why I always say that awareness is key, because when you do have that awareness, it's like, okay, you can start to reason with yourself almost that this is what my brain's doing, this is what's trying to occur, it's just trying to keep me safe. But actually, in that moment, I was not thinking about how my brain was trying to keep me safe and how it was obviously going to jump to the negatives. What I was doing is spiraling on those negatives. So imagine this now, it's probably been a good 4, 5, maybe as much as 6 hours later after this event occurred, yeah? And at this point, I am literally sat there and I'm thinking, right, am I just gonna keep like sitting here, spiraling, torturing myself with these stories that I've invented? You know, and I'm thinking, oh, I wish I'd have said this, I wish I'd have just asked, or what does she mean? Like, or why didn't I just say, what do you mean by that? Just thinking of every single possible response or thing that I should have said, because I am guilty of doing that. Like I say, I don't often do or say things in the moment. I will come away and reflect and wish that I'd have done it. So it is still something that I am personally working on. But in this moment, I realised I had 2 options here. Do I continue to spiral, or do I actually do what I wish I had have done and just ask her what she meant? Yeah? And it was really uncomfortable to do this, by the way, but I thought, well, this gets me my answers. Whether I like the answer or not, I just need the answers right now. Does that make sense? Because avoiding that conversation was actually making me feel worse, because I was just spiraling and overthinking a completely, let's be honest, insignificant interaction. But to me, it meant like a lot in that moment. To put this into perspective as well, I feel like I've had quite a vulnerable week as well. Like a few things have cropped up, doing a lot of like energy work, shadow work, integration, and there's some shit that's come up. So maybe I was feeling vulnerable as well. It's me just trying to reason with y'all about why I've been overthinking the tiniest thing. But honestly, it really did feel like a lot in this moment. And I think this is why it's important to recognize a lot of the triggers that we have, because often it's not that interaction, is it? It's the interactions from before. It's the stories we've held in our hearts and our minds before. It's all those past experiences, everything together, that often it can only just be one small trigger that comes from so much more prior. Does that make sense? It's like when someone finally blows the fuse, and actually it's not that one tiny thing, it's not that one occasion where they didn't empty the dishwasher. It was all the tiny little things before that led to that moment. And I think maybe it was a bit of that for me as well. But yeah, avoiding that conversation, it was making me feel worse. And for me, I just needed some sort of answer. I think there was a part of me as well that maybe needed to explain myself, dependent upon what her answer was, you know. But then that's the inner child within me as well that's just trying to, you know, stand up for herself too. But anyway, this is where we get to the fun part, because I messaged her. I chose to message her. Super simple. And I thought, I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to tell her how I'm feeling. And I said to her, hey, I know this is totally random, but I cannot stop overthinking what you said to me earlier about not recognizing me with a smile. And I just wanted to ask, what did you mean by that? So I think I even put some emojis in there, you know, I'm overthinking, laughing faces, but I was just being honest, I'm overthinking. So I want an answer, you know, so I sent that. And her reply was absolutely nothing like what I'd told myself. Absolutely nowhere near. She literally came back to me and said that she was simply waiting for me to stop smiling so that she could properly see my face and feel comfortable enough to check that it was actually me. That was it. She just needed to see my face properly without the smile. She needed to feel comfortable herself because she wasn't sure that it was definitely me, because her vision's not that great. Can you believe that? That was all it was. And so in that moment, of course, there was this instant relief, you know, it made me feel amazing. But all I could think about was all of that spiraling And not just then, by the way, but every single experience that I have ever had prior to that, every single time that I've questioned an interaction or how someone thought of me from an experience that I had with them, was all for nothing. And that is where it hit me, because how many moments for ourselves and also for other people, other like the relationships that we have with others, but how many moments do we actually ruin because we assume something instead of just asking? And this is in so many different examples. This could be with friendships, romantic partners, family, colleagues, anyone and everyone. These relationships, these interactions could actually be so much more simple, so much more peaceful, hell of a lot happier and stronger if we just simply communicated how we feel in that moment. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, and deep down we all crave the same thing, and that is love, connection, peace, joy, happiness, We just want to feel a part of something and to enjoy a happy life, live a happy life. But also it turns out people are not mind readers. And we know that, we do know that deep down. But how many times do we just assume that we all have the same thoughts, feelings, opinions, triggers, values, We all see things so extraordinarily different. And other people cannot always see the trigger behind our reactions or our interactions. They don't know what some random throwaway comment may actually stir within us, because to them, they don't mean anything by it. They have their perception, they have their reasons, and we have ours, and we're so totally different. And we can often feel as though that asking for clarity or speaking up and just trying to understand may come across as being confrontational, or we think expressing any sort of discomfort makes us too much or hard work. What a softie, But it's actually the complete opposite. Good, honest communication is so respectful. Beautiful, deep connection is respectful. Communication is care, it is clarity. And that clarity is what gives you the peace. So yeah, we do need to speak up. We do need to communicate. We need to ask, clarify. And it's not to start conflict. It is actually to prevent it. It's to get the truth. It's not about blaming the other person, but to bring yourself peace and actually give the other person that clarity too, so that you're both on the same page. So it's wild, isn't it? Because this whole tiny experience just reminded me how much easier life becomes when we stop letting our minds spiral and go wild and crazy and completely run the show and our entire lives, and instead just choose to be honest and vulnerable. Actually, it was quite vulnerable of me to reach out in that way and speak my honest opinion and feelings. Yeah, and having those compassionate conversations where we can open up and be vulnerable, they're beautiful. And it gave me the answers. It saved me hours more or days of spiraling. And for so many people in our lives, it can actually save our relationships, can't it? If we just actually speak up and communicate our feelings. I guess I kind of just wanted to share this with you all because it was a reminder to myself of A, not only how far I have come, but B, still how far I still have yet to go, if that makes sense. Because I'm really proud that I did pinpoint this trigger and this upset within and reach out to her. But actually, the next step forward for me is feeling confident enough to say that in the moment. And to be honest, There has been occasions, of which I have shared with you on previous episodes, where in a moment I have been able to speak up for myself or ask for clarity and things like that. There have been those times, but I think, again, like any journey, there are ups and downs. You know, sometimes maybe I'm feeling more confident than others. Sometimes I'm in my higher self and showing up as this strong woman, and then other times I am feeling a little bit more vulnerable. But I think overall I'm pretty damn proud of myself, you know, but there's still work to be done, and that's okay too. But I guess if nothing else, I hope that me sharing this with you has kind of infused you with a little bit of confidence as well, to think of different examples for yourself of, like, if you was to reflect back on situations or scenarios where you wish that you'd have said something. Or maybe you're in a situation right now, even, where there's a scenario at work where you want to speak up or ask for something. Maybe you're messaging a guy and you don't really know whether his intentions are all that clear. And I hope that it gives you that little bit of a boost of confidence to think, I'm going to ask, because why are we wasting time in not doing so, and literally sending ourselves going crazy by not doing so? So often it is just a simple sentence that we can ask, isn't it? Hi, and be honest, like I might be overthinking this, but what did you mean when you said this, that, and the other? There's absolutely nothing wrong with asking, and you're even putting yourself in it. Oh, maybe I am overthinking. You know, you're expressing your vulnerability, but you still want an answer regardless. And that is the difference between reacting and responding. Because in this situation, I chose to respond. I could have said, "What the fuck did you mean by that before? Who do you think you are?" I could never imagine myself saying that, by the way, but I could have. That's what you call a react, instant aggressive reaction. But I chose to respond because I was feeling a certain way and I needed to get my answers, and that's how I chose to respond. And also, I approached the conversation with softness. I wasn't defensive. Can you look back, or can you think of times in your life or something that you're going through right now where clarifying and having deep, honest, vulnerable, sometimes, interactions and conversations would actually save an argument, completely save a relationship? And if nothing else, I feel that it builds this emotional intimacy with someone, if that's what you want. Because deep down, we do just want connection, don't we? So if we was to think back to that, it helps to reinforce that connection with other people, because it really opens you up and allows you to truly express your authenticity. That's it really for today. I just wanted to share this moment that I had, the lessons that I had from it, and to provide those teachings for you, because I know, hand on heart, that this will help so many other people. Because I know if you're listening to this, a lot of you are so much like me. People pleasers, empaths, yeah. We're the nice girl. We don't want to rock the boat. We want to look after everyone else. And sometimes we struggle with our boundaries. We struggle to communicate our needs. We struggle to stand up for ourselves because we just want to be liked. And this is a constant learning journey, and something that we are continuing to implement. And how better to do that than practice what you preach? Yeah? So if something feels off for you, then ask. If something stings, if it hurts in that moment, speak up. If something confuses you, if you are left wondering what the heck's going on or questioning a situation, get that clarity. Your peace, your happiness, you are worth that conversation. You are worth asking. You are worth getting those answers. And sometimes, I'll be honest, maybe those answers aren't that good. We might not get good answers, but isn't that so much better sometimes? Because if, for example, it is a situation where it's not really the answer that you wanted, at least you got it, then you can move the heck on rather than spiraling in what it could have been. And that is the truth. Even if it is uncomfortable, it is so much easier than the story that you're telling yourself when you're on your own or in the middle of the night when you can't get off to sleep. And that's all I've got for today. And so thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here as always. If you love this episode, please share it with a friend. Pop it on your stories. Tag me. Leave a comment. Rating, review. Do all that good stuff. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on this journey. If you don't already, you can follow me on Instagram at You Deserve Better Podcast. Feel free to reach out in the DMs. I love having chats with you all, and let me know how this episode landed and if it shifted something within you as well, because definitely a learning curve for me. But thank you so much. It's been lovely getting to share this with you all and actually express my more vulnerable side and the areas that I am still continuing to work on and heal and grow through. So thank you for listening. Love you all so much, and I'll speak to you on the next episode.